Hi everyone, welcome back to our Educational Insights. I'm Carol Chan, the program host of the Education Insights. 各位親愛觀眾，歡迎大家咧再嚟收睇我哋嘅教育透視嘅節目。我係節目主持人陳滿寧。Today we are very happy to have our honorable guest, Mr. Chris Bolton. He is the vice chair of the trustee from Toronto TV this school board, and today he would like to share the update regarding the education issues. 各位聽眾觀眾，今日我哋非常之榮幸咧，能夠請到我哋嘉賓Mr. Bolton， 佢係多倫多教育局嘅副主席，我哋非常榮幸能夠得到去分享我哋嘅教育工作。Welcome, Mr. Bolton.
Thank you, Carol.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I know you're very busy, so
Well,
it's a
not
privilege
too busy
to
for
have you
this.
here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know you are the vice chair of the Toronto School Board trustee. Can you share with us how many terms have been the trustee?
I've been trustee for Trinity Spadina, which is sort of down in the Dundas and Spadina area, for 2 terms now. It's a total of 6 years, and our terms are 4 years. This is my 2nd term, and hopefully I will go for a 3rd term.
Wow, after the 2nd term, you're already at the vice. The next term will be the chair.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that.
Wonderful.
Yes. The positions that we take on as added responsibilities, such as the vice chair, are elections that are done yearly by the trustees themselves. So every December, we apply for positions and we're elected in. So I've been vice chair. I've been chair of the school programs committee, which I think is very important, and just try and do my part in terms of the support.
Regular trust is a very hard word, no, but you're vice chair, so maybe more, busy than regular.
Right.
Can you share with us your expectation from the district school board as a vice chair of the trustee?
Well, my responsibilities are decided in conjunction with the chair of the board. He and I meet on a regular basis. I also chair for meetings. I have responsibility for chairing the private sections of the agenda and when we have board meetings, and he is responsible for the public sections. And I do events where I go and represent the board and also support the chair in his in the activities and offer him advice, and we talk about issues.
How often you have board meeting?
We have board meetings about every 5 weeks, and in between we have a series of committee meetings, standing committee meetings, which I usually try to attend. Some of them, not all of them, but to be able to support the committee chairs and to be able to work with the committees and offer them suggestions.
How many subcommittees to be responsible?
There are 4 standing committees, and there's a series of what are called advisory committees, which are community advisory committees, and I co-chair 3 of those, and a couple of reference groups as well that I'm particularly interested in, particularly the Ethnocultural Network, which is an organization that brings representatives from across the city, from all the sort of multicultural groups within the city, both language and cultural, bring them together on a regular basis. And I'm also involved in the international languages as well as equity issues.
So every day is your meeting day?
Yeah, pretty much.
So
Most evenings anyway.
Do you treat this as your full-time job or part-time job only?
It's considered a part-time job by the provincial government, but one of the things, and this is one of the things, I have my own businesses separate, but it's a little easier because I employ myself as opposed to some of the trustees which need to have full-time jobs as well. So their time isn't as flexible, but it is considered by the provincial government to be a part-time job.
Okay, great. So for your 2 terms already passed, do you face any unforgettable instant or really satisfaction situation? Can you share with us,
Well,
please?
I think certainly all the events that have to do with going to the schools and watching the school children perform, and also having an opportunity to meet parents. Like tonight, for instance, we're having a very large parent meeting downtown at Bickford Center at Christie and Bloor to be able to talk about budgetary issues. Those kinds of activities are particularly interesting. But I think one of the most unforgettable events, because of my interest in international languages, was the 30th anniversary of the International
Oh,
Languages Program a couple of years ago, and the huge celebration and all the cultural groups that performed and were part of that. It was truly amazing to see the multicultural fabric of the Toronto District School Board, which of course is really the multicultural fabric of the city and the surrounding area.
oh, I just curious. Like, is it the majority enrollment regarding the international languages of Chinese or any culture?
I would say that the number of East Asian
Oh, East Asian.
students in our schools is probably getting to be a majority. But right now, I would say that it's pretty evenly displaced about East Asian, South Asian, Afro-Caribbean. I guess one of the lowest groups on in terms of the Toronto District School Board is probably the Caucasian or the white students.
You know what, Chris? I'm so proud you are me kind of interested to participate in international languages. I was curious, what's the further like long-term goal for developing the Chinese like as a
Right,
majority international languages?
right.
What's the
Well, we have very close relations with many countries
mm-hmm.
in Asia as well as in Europe and in the Caribbean and South America, but we are certainly very much involved with Korean. We're very much involved with mainland China and with the Taiwanese and Hong Kong districts, and but our ideas are that we need to support the culture and the language of the Chinese and the East Asian students, because if you lose your culture and if you lose your language, you start to lose your identity, and
Yeah.
you don't understand what your place is within Canadian culture. So it's very important to us. So we have been working with the overseas governments to make sure that we have the best quality teaching.
Mm-hmm.
We have, for our international languages instructors, that we have materials, that we have supports for our classes on Saturdays, that we have supports for our festivities to be able to help. And one of the things that we are doing that's coming up is we every summer we send quite a number of instructors from our international languages program
Mm-hmm.
overseas to do professional development.
Oh, wonderful!
And
Three
so,
years?
well,
I heard it.
there's two programs going on this summer.
Mm-hmm.
One program that we're offering in Shanghai is for people who wish to perfect their Mandarin speaking, and to
Mm-hmm.
be able to take sort of the HSK exams. And then the other one that we're very proud of, and I've been quite deeply involved in, is developing a degree program for our
Oh.
teachers, our instructors in Dalian, in China on the coast,
Mm-hmm.
a 3-year degree program where after those 3 years, those instructors will have a degree in teaching Chinese language to non-Chinese or overseas Chinese, and so I'm very, very, very
Oh my
pleased about
goodness.
that. So we had over 60 people writing an entrance exam to Liaoning University
Uh-huh.
in Toronto. last month, and we have another 30 some odd at least on the waiting list to write the exam for an entrance. So I'm looking forward to meeting everybody over there in the summer, and we should have a great program.
So is it sponsored by the Toronto School Board, this
It's
program?
partially sponsored by the Toronto District School Board Continuing Education and International Languages Department, but it's also sponsored by Liaoning University. So, in fact, our instructors will be somewhat subsidized to be able to take the degree. This year, they will be taking courses 8 hours a day for a month in Dalian at Liaoning University. And next year they will be taking them in Toronto, and then the following year they take their final exams, their courses and their final exam in Liaoning.
Do you charge the fees, the school fees?
There will be a small fee, but also people have to do their own airline,
Okay.
which is, of course, a major expense in the summertime. And that's one reason we hope to have the second year, the middle year of the degree program in Canada.
Yes, save the money.
So that's right, because it's a major expense for people to go over, and of course, although everything's included once you get over there, there's still other expenses.
So I heard it's great response, a good
Very
response from the
good
community.
response.
And then how many kind of finalized candidate you will be?
Well, classes are usually 25 to 1. So,
25% will be
well, so
those-
it's a question of whether we take 25, 50, or 75 or 100 people. But classes in Chinese universities are usually at about 25 to 1 for the language classes. And certainly at Liaoning, which I've been to three times now, that's the plan for us there.
Okay, great. And I heard that there's a really new kind of the pilot program. Is it from a daycare with a bilingual English and Chinese
Yes.
languages? It's
I'm-
developing, is it
That's
right?
right. It is. It's very much developing. There is a group, a not-for-profit group, that is in discussions with myself and a school and the superintendent downtown to open a Mandarin instruction, daycare, and early childhood center in a school. And to support the acquisition of Mandarin, either by people of Chinese descent or by others. I mean, it is possible, and one of the things we're quite excited about is not just teaching Chinese to people of Chinese descent, but also to other children, because we believe that in the future Mandarin will be a very important language for them to have.
Oh,
So we
wonderful.
hope to have a site up and running by next September.
Well, how much capacity of that daycare?
Well, daycare, dependent upon the age, daycare capacities can be 8 to 1,
Is from toddlers or
I don't think we'll be doing toddlers. I think
Preschool.
it'll be preschool.
okay.
Preschool and
Till?
maybe kindergarten age. And then the question is, how far up do we go? But right now, we want to grow it. So we want to start with the younger kids and then gradually build up towards the older kids. And
Is it free? Like the regular?
I don't think that this daycare will be free.
Okay.
I think what we're going to do is try and make the fee as reasonable as possible, because we don't want people to feel that they can't come because it's so expensive. It is not a private school.
It's a non-profit making
It's a
one.
non-profit. That's right.
That's reasonable.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what I really appreciated, you were so hard and involved in our Chinese language program. I mean, it's a benefit for Chinese, or not only Chinese, for the international, right?
For everybody,
Overall, right? There's the foreign issue. I don't know if you can share with us. Like, I I heard it's the swimming pool. Some of the swimming pool and the old schools will be closed soon. Is it right?
Okay, so about a year ago, one of the trustees put forward a motion that we should close a whole series of swimming pools, and there are actually 39 of them that are talked about being closed, and a number of us, particularly in the areas that do not have necessarily as many recreation centers with swimming pools in them, but have swimming pools in the schools, have been trying to work to keep those pools open. Part of the problem is that particularly in the center of the city, the pools, some of the pools have been around for quite a number of years. And so there's a lot of repairs. So
Yeah.
the school board felt that they couldn't do anything with that. There has been an agreement with the provincial government that the provincial government will pay for some of the upgrading of some of the pools, but not all of the pools. So, for instance, in the area that I represent, which is basically at Dundas and Spadina, it basically goes from University to Dovercourt and Bloor to the lake. There are two pools that are considered to be too expensive to repair, which is a great concern.
Are they attached to the school?
Yes, they're right
Okay.
in schools, and they're in secondary schools. But what we want to make sure is that people understand that these are community pools. It's not just a school pool, it's a community pool, and that we need to make sure that we keep those pools available to the students, the families, and the community members. So right now I'm in negotiations with a number of groups who are trying to support to keep open all the pools in the area that I represent. Those are the ones that I have to worry about right now. And basically, I have 4 pools that we're working on, and we believe that we probably have enough money to keep at least half of them, if not all of them, open. But it is certainly a concern. It's very much
For
a concern.
maintenance,
That's
right?
right. It's a concern for maintenance, but it's also very important that the children, all students, have an opportunity to take swimming lessons. It's a life skill. And the other thing is that there is nothing better than swimming to be able to support the needs of particularly special ed kids.
Yeah, for safety,
That's right.
right?
Well,
Issue.
it allows many students who might not be mobile to be more mobile. It also helps to support kids who are more hyper active. After they've been swimming, they are much calmer and much more able to do their school work. And many of them are very bright, and we need to make sure that they have, that they have the swimming and the activities in order to be able to do that. There's nothing like swimming as an exercise.
So swimming is a kind of a mandatory program
It
at
ought
the
to be.
Fiat, right? Is
It ought to be.
Okay,
And
good.
unfortunately, right now, it's not seen as that.
Okay, so is it the provincial government involved for supporting this issue?
Well, really what happens, Carol, is that when the school boards, before the amalgamation in 1998, and when the school board became one huge school board from 6 small school boards, that we collected taxes in Toronto. The city collected the taxes and for education and gave them to the school boards. Now the city collects the taxes, but they don't give all the taxes to the school board. They give some of the taxes to the provincial government. So what happens is that the money that used to keep some of our programs going, including supporting our swimming pools and our maintenance, now goes back to the provincial government. And the way the provincial government explains it, I mean, I think it's an altruistic idea, but they explain it in that Toronto always had more taxes and therefore had the ability to do special things, whereas there were other school boards in other parts of the province who didn't have these resources, and so we needed to take some of the money from Toronto and give it to the outlying school boards. But what has happened is that in the midst of doing all that, the Toronto has lost a lot of money.
So tonight you're going to have an important meeting regarding budgeting.
That's right.
What's a big involvement? Like, is it only focused on the kind of thing or regular overall budgeting?
No, I think one of the things actually on my way to the studio this morning, one of the things I received a phone call from a group who is very concerned about the international languages and ESL programs.
Oh.
And, there are two ways to look at the budget. One is to say, okay, this is what we've got and it's time to cut. Okay? And the other way to look at it is this is what we need. And you decide how we get the money for it. So what they're saying is we're not going to talk about what needs to be cut. But we believe that for new Canadian families, for our multicultural, large multicultural community and Chinese community within the school board and within the city, and because of our ESL needs, that we need to consider putting these things at the top of the list. And then the school board can decide how we get the money.
So I'm just curious, is it those budgeting for international language and ESL should be separated from the regular program? Is it right?
To some extent, ESL is. That's correct. ESL is a special budget line that comes from the provincial government. However, it's not required that the whole thing be used for ESL. And what we've been saying in the past, and Su Wong, Trustee Su Wong and myself and some of the others have been saying is that we need to use more of that for ESL. Right now, the understanding is that for ESL students taking ESL classes, that they should be doing it, they should be able to learn English in maybe 3 to 5 years. Okay, closer to 3. And we're saying no, it should be closer to 5 to 7 years, and we need to support our ESL students longer. So we need to put more of the money we get into that, as opposed to putting it into the electrical bill, the gas bill for the board, etc. That the province needs to come up with the money for the electrical bill and the gas bill, so we can put all that money into the ESL. With regard to the international languages, it is a separate line for the teachers. But if the program in the ward that I represent, many of the international languages program happen during the school day. So they're part of the school day, much like children take French during school in the downtown area.
How often a week?
Every day.
Every day? That's
Every day.
wonderful.
Yeah, so we do Portuguese, Spanish, Mandarin, Cantonese, Arabic.
How many languages are available at the regular day base?
Well, they're in the integrated day program. There are a total of 7, but they're not available in every school. There are 11 schools that do international languages downtown. But the problem comes for international languages when international languages is offered in the evening or on Saturday. And then the international languages department has to pay the school board out of the international languages budget rent. And last year, the rent for the international languages continuing education program was over $2 million that they had to take out. So that's where the costs come. The costs do not come from the program. If the school board decided to make the international languages have free rent, we would have a huge program.
So maybe you can recommend it daily running.
We do. I recommend, and
I appreciate it.
That's
yes.
right. That's right.
And,
And we're looking to expand the integrated day program to other areas of the city. We're looking in Scarborough to have an integrated day, in Mandarin. We're looking at doing at least in one location. So we're hoping to be able to do that as a focus school in the next year or so.
Because there's a benefit for the new generation. The more they involve daily, the more they can practice, and they feel more comfortable to get used to it.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
only once a week is not good enough.
No, and to do quite frankly, to do it for 2.5 hours after school, one day
Yeah.
a week, by the time you get to the next week, the kids have forgotten
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of it. I mean, I know myself. I'm studying Chinese, and
Mm-hmm.
I only
You
do
study
it once.
Chinese too?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. That's why from your business card you have Chinese
Right,
name.
right, right.
I appreciate that. I just wondered. I heard there's a new issue. It just happened yesterday. We had a. Is it we are you guys are voting for a, a new issue regarding not allow children to go out for lunch and no junk food machine already
Right.
implemented, right?
Last night there was actually a meeting of the school board to at the school board to talk about the
Mm-hmm.
nutrition task force report, and in that report it says a number of things. First of all, it suggests that we need to be having more healthy foods, and we need to be doing things differently in our cafeterias. One of the suggestions, based on basically an American model, is that students not be allowed in middle school, which is grade 6, 7, 8, 9, to leave the school during lunch.
Or middle school.
Yes.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I'm not in favor of that. I believe that the better way, rather than pushing the kids to stay, demanding that the kids stay in school, because particularly at that age, anybody who has children who are that age knows that, the better way is to encourage them as opposed to tell them. So I would suggest we encourage them by redesigning our cafeterias so that they're more friendly to the teens. They have foods that are both healthy and that they will eat. Have things like your studio here, for instance, like have programs on screens around the rooms, like much music and things like that, that will encourage the students to stay in the school. At noon hour programming, so that they are encouraged to stay in the school, not to say that they may not leave the school.
Yeah, more positive, right?
Exactly.
And is the cafeteria available? The cafeteria for food selling
Well,
or
not
hot
that's an
meals?
interesting point, actually, because not all schools have cafeterias, and so
Okay.
sometimes they have to eat in the gym,
Mm.
in the gymnasium. And then how do you do sports programs or arts programs if everybody's eating there?
It's not good.
So for
Yeah.
instance, I'm involved in designing a new school now for the downtown area, where we will have a separate lunchroom from the gymnasium, because we know we want kids to stay at lunch. But I think it's a matter of the design of it, and we have some very good examples. And actually, at one of the secondary schools, Central Tech, we will be completely redesigning their cafeteria this summer so that it looks like a cafe with screens and different kinds of seating, and designed, and menus designed by students. But the other thing is, I guess, about the vending machines.
Okay, another hot issue is regarding school violence, like shooting.
Right,
Gun shooting happened last 2 weeks terribly. Like
right.
even a 14 years old
Yes, yes. It was very,
young
very,
boy was shot,
very
right?
unfortunate.
So, as a vice chair of the trustee of the TDSB, what the strategies
Right.
motivate the kids to be safe?
Right. Well, I will say, first of all, I need to say right off the bat that we believe that the schools are safe. We think we're definitely that the schools are safe. We have, of all the incidents that have happened, particularly recently, none of those have happened in schools. But we need to work with students and make sure that they're feeling engaged, that they feel supported, that they understand, that things that they need to report things, that it's not just simply, telling on somebody, but that they have a responsibility. to develop programs in the schools, to develop clubs and things that will keep kids engaged in things
Very
that
good.
are supportive, as opposed to them resorting to joining other groups such as gangs that will support them differently. We need to do more of that. We need to have more after school and evening and summer activities. And one of the things we're doing right now is that there was a meeting the other day. I chair a committee called Focus on Youth for Toronto District School Board, and we will be hiring over 400 students this summer and giving them employment, running camps as counselors. We will train them. Then they will run camps for younger kids under the Toronto District School Board and with agencies in the neighborhoods to be able to support students so that they have money in their pockets, they're off the streets, they're engaged in something, and to be able to do that.
How about as a team? Do you guys team up with the city regarding there's some positive youth program available at the community centers, kind of thing, like
We do
drop-in
we do that.
center?
We do that. We when we're doing the focus on youth, for instance, we make sure that that we're not everything is coordinated with the agencies and also with our continuing education department to make sure that students have opportunities, for instance, to get co-op credits during the summer, to be able to support them through the focus on youth, but also to be able to get other kinds of credits in the morning and then join our programs in the afternoon, so that they
Wonderful.
have something. And then we also have another program called Boys to Men and Girls Only for teens to be able to support and offer groups to sort of like clubs to be able to get boys and girls together in same-sex kinds of environments to be able to talk about issues and do things together with a mentor.
Okay, may I know the update statistics? Is it so that the dropout situation is less
Well,
or better
the
than before?
dropout rate is we believe is particularly being reduced in the downtown area. We've done some particularly special things. We have something called the Eureka program, which actually goes out and finds kids and tries to re-engage them in the school. That's at Central Commerce. So kids who have left school, but because they didn't feel it was relevant to them, bring them back, offer them opportunities to be able to get a few credits, find them a school that fits with their idea of what school is. We also have another program called the Commerce Connections at Central Commerce, where students are connected with universities and colleges, and they can actually do credits at school and college and university credits at the same time to be able to show them that there is a possibility for them after high school, so to keep them engaged. Also, as I've said, our Boys to Men. So we are trying to do things. The dropout rate has fallen, but until it gets to the point where it's absolutely zero, then we haven't done enough. We also have alternative schools for our street youth in the downtown
Good.
area.
Is it by law? Isn't no drop
Well,
of this
the law now says that all students must stay in school until the age of 18.
18,
18.
not 21?
No. Well, students can stay in school until 21. The provincial government only funds students from the ages of 6 to 21 officially at this point, and that's why we'll get into the all-day kindergarten soon.
So they have the right to, doesn't matter any program, but until 21.
Yes, they can stay in. Our problem is not keeping them until 21. Our problem is, in terms of the dropouts, keeping them engaged so that they don't drop out before the age of 18 or before the age of 21.
So are you satisfied from the current result of EQA or any census surveys from the current surveys for measuring the quality or standards of the Toronto School Board?
Right. Well, there are many different ways to measure the quality of education. EQAO was put together by a former government as a sort of a standardized test. And yes, standardized tests may have their place. I personally, as a former principal and a former teacher, believe that it's much better for parents, when they're looking at quality in their child's education, first of all, to be actively involved in the school, because nothing shows you what a school is doing like being there and going and visiting your child's teacher, or phoning your child's teacher and hearing about progress up front and asking very pertinent questions about what it is that your child is doing, so that you're satisfied. And if not, then, take action on it. So EQAO is just one thing. There are other assessments happening in school at all times. There's tests and those kinds of things, and those should be coming home. Also, what you see in assignments, we encourage the students to bring home their assignments. And what you see when your son or daughter brings home homework, is it the quality of work that you think is appropriate? And if not, get in touch with the school and ask questions.
But now the current law is like reducing the homework time, right? From maybe 1 hour to now is only 20 minutes for reading. Is it right?
Well, this is in the Toronto District School Board, that it's a graduated homework. So,
Okay.
for instance, the question is, how much homework do you give a kindergarten student or a grade 1 student? And what is the primary thing that we're interested in with kindergartens and grade 1s? Well, I would say that one of the main things, and what we've said in the policy, one of the main things is to do reading, so that every child should be read to and should be reading every day.
20 minutes?
Well, it could be 20 minutes, it could be more, dependent upon the child, and I would suggest also that reading does not have to be just in English. It could be in first language, because we know now, we have proof that a child who has a language other than English as their first language actually does better on the EQAO. So another reason for taking international languages in school is to keep that language up, because then you start processing in more than one way, because you're processing in more than one language. And it doesn't only help with reading and writing, it also helps with the math in the EQAO. So that kind of thing. And then as we go further up in the grades, the amount of work increases. But what we were finding and what we were hearing from parents was that children and students, particularly in the elementary school, were coming home with 2 and 3 hours of homework every night, and were falling asleep at the kitchen table because, and parents were getting frustrated because they really weren't clear about what it was that was happening. So there's a number of things. There's the amount of time, but also having clear understanding of what the role of the teacher, the student, and the parent is in homework, and how to be able to support each other in that.
So you recommend quality time with the parents?
Yes.
Right? That's like one of
quality time.
One of the best way for
absolutely
interactions, relationships.
And very important for
that's
preteens,
important.
because then you have the relationship when they become teens.
And are you satisfied with the current report regarding the census from the grade 7 to grade 12? Like overall developments,
Well, I would say that we certainly found some real surprises. We found that, for instance, that there was some cultural groups that were badly lagging behind other groups. One of those that's most badly lagging is the Spanish community.
Is that right? How many cultures you have put in a survey?
Well, I can't remember
Chinese
there's quite an array, and I can't remember because I haven't seen the survey for a while. But there's quite an array. But certainly in terms of the Chinese, in terms of those who specified that they were of Chinese descent, that the students felt that. And the parents, remember there was a parent aspect too, felt that there was that they were satisfied in many respects with the academics. The problem comes with the way we operate our schools. Not we need to be doing more in our schools to make sure that the students, particularly at secondary school, feel comfortable in the schools, that they don't feel overly pressured. It's fine to have some pressure to succeed, but what we worry about is that some students get very, very upset about the amount of pressure that they feel laid on it, academic pressure. And so we need, and the other thing that was said very clearly by all students is that there needs to be more kinds of activities outside the classroom. So more after school activities, more opportunities to socialize, more opportunities to get support and homework and those kinds of things, and tutoring.
Make it more fun. Learning through this variety of activities.
Right. But making sure that they have the best quality that they possibly can.
Okay. I know your role as a trustee is between parents, teachers, and students. Do you feel comfortable? So how to balance the,
Well, so I've been a principal. I've been a teacher before I was a trustee. So I know, and the area that I represent downtown as a trustee for Trinity Spadina is the area in which I worked for 30 years. So I know most of the communities. However, the communities are always changing. And they're moving forward, and as the kids grow older. But I think that for me, one of the most important things is making sure that that the parents and the community members and the students have access to the school board. So that's my job, is to be sort of the facilitator for them to get whatever they need from the school board that may be separate from, or they're feeling that they're not being heard at the school. Then they come to me, and we make sure that they have the best possible service. The Toronto District School Board prides itself in being not only the largest school board in Canada, but also Canada's first school board. In China, the Toronto District School Board is considered to be the school board that one goes to.
That's why they approach you first.
That's right.
How many areas they cover under the Toronto School Board?
Well, when the Toronto District School Board was established 10 years ago, it brought together Scarborough, Etobicoke, North York, and then 3 areas downtown: East York, Toronto, and York. So there's six areas. But it's a huge area, because it goes all the way from the Etobicoke Creek out by the airport, all the way over to the Rouge River, and all the way from Steeles Avenue to the lake. So there's 425,000 learners in the school board, including 270,000 day school and 155,000 continuing education, because of course the Toronto District School Board believes that you never stop learning, and you need to have learning opportunities whether you're 6 or 60.
So you're a huge team under you.
Yes, well, that's right.
How many schools under supervision of one trustee?
Well, for myself, it's 34. For some others, it's as low as 18 or 20. But my area is slightly different. As well as high schools, regular high schools, and regular elementary schools, I also have a series of alternative schools. And these are schools that are, in the Toronto District School Board, we have what's called the Alternative Schools Policy, where parents or teachers or parents and teachers can come together and develop a philosophy and start a school.
Oh, wonderful.
And we do it within the school board. And so I have elementary schools that have special philosophies, like special bilingual school. I have a special school for for those who like free learning. I have, which is a specific kind. I have secondary schools that are highly academic. I have secondary schools, alternative schools that are for street youth. So
Street
there's
youth?
street,
Oh,
yeah.
oh. So all those representatives is appointed by the school board, or they elected to go, or they are just as a volunteer?
Well, every school is required to have a parents advisory committee or a parent council, and they must elect their members. That's under the provincial government. Provincial government says every school board must. Then, in addition, all school trustees must have a council of representatives from all the schools. And then the school board has what's called the Parent Involvement Advisory Committee, which has representatives from all the trustees across the city. So there's 22 that meet monthly at the school board and talk about parent issues and give advice to the school board about those issues.
Those are very important representatives.
Very important
Oh.
representatives, and we cannot, because it is the parents and the children and the adult learners that are the crux of the school board.
Are you satisfied with the overall support from the community as well, the parents, as a government, as your role, trustee?
Well, we're always trying to include more parents. We know that parents are very busy. And we know that parents don't want to just come out and sit and chat because they may be at work, or they may have other things, or they simply we want them home with their families talking to the kids and those kinds of things. So we're always looking for ways to be able to include people, not necessarily coming to a lot of meetings, but how do we do this? The other thing that concerns me very greatly is that often when we ask parents to come together, because of the funding shortfalls, that we ask parents to come together for fundraising, to raise money for the schools. But I'm very concerned that more and more parents are being asked to spend more and more at the school in addition to the taxes that they paid, because we're not getting sufficient money to be able to offer programming. One of our funding sources, our major funding source, is the provincial government.
Oh.
And the provincial government, we believe, could be doing more in certain areas, and I talked about that earlier. We believe that there's a shortfall, for instance, with regard to our heating costs, our electrical costs, and also we do not get all the money that we need to pay our teachers and our staff from the provincial government. So the Toronto District School Board every year ends up having to pay some money out of the money that should be going to our children to
this
pay our
deficit.
staff. That's right. This is the deficit. And so there's always a question about that. Now, I would say that, excuse me, that in the new way we do things, we need to understand that the provincial government is only one of our funders, and they need to understand that as well, that in fact we're going to have to start looking for other funders to be able to help our programs.
But overall, how about the teachers? Is there any issues, or they are very satisfied with their current benefits, the package of benefits?
Right.
Also, the preparation time as well as the PA day. Do they have any current issues?
Well, certainly this year, because it's a special year. Once every 7 years, we run into a problem because the school year starts late. So this year, school usually starts after Labor Day, and that is almost a week into September. So we will not be coming back to school until the 6th, I think it is, of September. and after Labor
Day.
Day. And there were not enough teaching days because the
Oh.
government insists that we have a certain number of teaching days every year. So we didn't have enough teaching days until the end of June 2010. So we had to rearrange the school year, not for the students, but for the staff. So we were very thankful to the staff that they agreed that they would come in for a couple of days the week before and count them as PA days. So we would have fewer PA days during the year, but the number of PA days that we're supposed to have is some of those are moved back into the previous week. The federations and the unions, the support workers, the educational assistants, and all the groups are working very hard. They need time to be able to prepare their lessons and also to be able to work with students on small projects or to be able to organize field trips and those kinds of things. The amount of that preparation time will increase over the next few years with regard as the new contract comes into play. The only contract that has not been agreed to yet, and that we're still working very hard with the Federation on, is the contract for the secondary school teachers in the city of Toronto, in the Toronto District School Board, and we're working very hard with them to make sure that we have no disruptions and that we keep the students involved, because this is very important not
Thank
only
you.
to us but
Yeah.
also to parents.
You know what, Mr. Bolton, I really appreciate that. You're the great leader between both sides.
Thank you.
Because we treated the children as the most important.
That's
They are
right.
the center, right?
That's
so
right.
how to reduce any size and balance is not good.
No.
So do you think about the summer holidays too long? How to compromise? Like, do you think about we arrange the summer time in between years? Like,
Well, we've been talking about this for some time. Durham and Peel Region have already instituted year-round schooling. We have year-round schooling for secondary school.
Okay.
I started a year-round alternative secondary school about 4 years ago with the staff in the Toronto District School Board, and we now have 3 of them. We do not have an elementary year-round school. The way the school year is set up, it's been set up like that for over 100 years, that we have 2 months off in the summer. And the reason we have the 2 months off in the summer is because 100 years ago, the children had to help their parents on the farm.
yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, there's not too many students that have a farm in particularly in the Toronto District School Board. So about 4 years ago, I asked to have it looked at. We've been looking at it, and we've been looking at it, and we've been discussing it. But the fact of the matter is that we have not yet opened one, but we need to. Because for many students, and for instance, in the downtown area this summer, we will have 2 camps that have an academic aspect, because by the time the students have been away for 8 weeks, that's
10 weeks.
It can be up to.
Yeah, up to 10 weeks.
That's right. This summer being special. But during that summer period, it's too long.
Yeah,
It's too long.
exactly.
They get bored.
But some of the new trend, most of you, like the PE teens, they refuse to go summer camps. They said boring. I have so many, like my son, my relatives, they refuse to go they're childish. You know what they like to do? They like to stay home.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They are free, right?
Right.
They can engage on their computer game, whatever they like.
But I guess what we're doing with our summer camps downtown is we're offering them opportunities. We're offering them opportunities to gain a skill as a
That's good.
counselor in training. We also, if they're in secondary school, they can use that counselor in training time for their volunteer hours. So in fact, and if they also get to do, in addition to doing their counselor work, if they also get some time on the basketball court or, in the dance theater or doing an arts program or in the weight room or in the swimming pool, then they're willing to come. So I think it's a matter of making it relevant for them and making it sort of enticing to sort of draw them in. Because once you've got them involved, we know from past experience when we've done this, we know that they will start getting up early. They'll be there before the doors open.
Okay, go back to the budget on the younger one, the preschool, not
Right.
like kindergarten education.
Right.
I remember the Liberal government promised that maybe within 4 years, the new trend is like the JKSK have a whole day program instead of a half day or alternative day program.
Right.
How is it update now?
So the situation right now is that we understand that the report is written, and we're just waiting, and has been submitted to the government. It hasn't been made public yet. The question is, what kind of a program will that be? It will probably be something like kindergarten and a version of something that looks kind of like daycare. Maybe it is daycare. We're not quite sure. Or maybe it's an activity program in the afternoon that's offered. We also believe that it will be in place by September 2010 in some schools. In the Toronto District,
How many schools?
Well, in the Toronto District School Board, there are 550 schools. We believe that about 20% of them, or about 100, may have programs. So we believe it will be phased in. But there are many questions that I think the provincial government has to answer, and about staffing, about what the program is. Because parents aren't going to just send their children just to a program. They want to know what it is that the provincial government is doing with regard to the program. What kind of programming will it be? And so I think that's the kind of thing that they're working on now, and we believe that before the end of June there will be an announcement.
Great, I look forward to seeing that.
That's so do we.
You just mentioned 2010. That's another election year.
That's right.
What's Mr. Bolton's plan? Do you mind to share with us?
Well, my plan today depends on the day, but my plan today is to run again in the election for the next 4 years. But yes, so we. I believe that I represent the communities, and there's many communities in the downtown area, and I believe that I have both by working with the school board, for the school board, and being a trustee, have represented them, and I think people feel that by and large.
Your performance are excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Like you just share so many things for us. Now I heard that more and more new generation would like to be a politician. Do you want to share any tips for them?
Well, I'll just tell you how I do it. Actually, I was talking to a group of people who were running for, we have a super council at the Toronto District School Board for students.
Oh, good.
And so the elections were 2 weeks ago. And one of the things I suggest is that they get involved with their school board trustee tends to be a very local grassroots kind of activity. And to get, first of all, involved in their schools in a leadership role, but also to get in touch with the super council or their board-wide council. But the other thing too is to get in touch with their trustee and ask if they can help out. One of the things that we're very concerned about is student engagement, to get students involved in the school board. So, for instance, I have 2 youth that work for me as constituency assistants who are interested in politics in the future, but I help them to understand what it is to be involved in the school board, and they help me because they can make the connections with the youth, because it is very important that we keep youth engaged and understand what's relevant to them. So, There are also co-op placements that are available with some trustees. So when students are doing co-op placements, looking for co-op placements, they could consider their local trustee.
Good. Okay, Mr. Bolton, if people are interested to reach you, how can you share the information, please?
Well, I guess the easiest way to reach me is either calling me at the school board at 397 3100, or going to the website, which is just chrisbolton.ca, and there's contact information there as well, and information, and also for parents who are interested in what we're doing and the kinds of things, the way that I run. The organization runs downtown, they would see on there a link to our local ward website, which is for parents and community members.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much,
Well,
Mr.
thank you,
Bolton.
Carol. Very
Today
nice to
we
meet
have a
you.
very privileged to have Mr. Bolton from the Toronto School Board for sharing with us a lot of updates regarding how to raise our new generations. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy raise the children, your youth in a new trend way, please contact Mr. Bolton at he just said the website.
Right.
Can you
chrisbolton.ca.
Yeah. So your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, and meet you later. Thank you.
Thank you.